tens of thousands of families who are left in a place where they are being denied that very proper access to truth, justice and equality. This is shameful, and it stands in stark contrast to any proper, accountable democratic system. And on behalf of the Bloody Sunday families, we will walk with you and every family in your rightful pursuit of truth and justice today, then and always.
I am Natasha Butler, the granddaughter of Paddy Butler. My grandfather, Paddy Butler, aged 38, was murdered along with Father Noel Fitzpatrick, 40, John Dougal, 16, David McCafferty, 15, and Margaret Gargan, 13, in the Spring Hill West Rock Massacre on the 9th of July 1972 by members of the British Army. It is important to understand that this was the normal practice used by the state in the early 70s, which impacted many families whose loved ones were murdered by the British Army. No investigation followed, by no independent scrutiny of their actions, giving them total impunity for their reign of terror. My mother has fought 30 years for truth and for justice. The focus of our campaign has to be achieve the opening of a fresh inquest into the circumstances surrounding the murder of our loved ones. We watched and celebrated our close neighbours, the Ballymurphy Massacre families, their achievement after a long battle, the vindication we also seek that their loved ones were murdered in cold blood. Despite the state's refusal to adequately resource legacy inquests, aided by the MOD and the PSNI's policy to deliberately withholding information and failing to locate military suspects and witnesses. When families were successful in achieving Article 2 inquests, the truth has emerged around the circumstances of their murders. However, our expectations were dashed when the British government unilaterally and without consulting any key stakeholders who signed up to the Stormont House Agreement, launched its Bill of Shame. This bill was solely aimed at honouring a Tory manifesto committed in the 2019 Westminster election to grant an amnesty for British state forces who had murdered a main Irish citizens like the victims of the Spring Hill Massacre. To further rub salt into the wounds of victims and all families stood here today, this bill will remove our basic human rights to access any legal route to vindicate our loved ones.
Soldier Elf murdered my brother, and he murdered 5 that day and injured another 6. Their names were Willie McKinney, Jim Ray, Paddy Doherty and Barney McGuigan, and intended to murder Michael Quinn, Joe Friel, Joe Mahan, Patsy O'Donnell, Danny McGowan and Johnny Campbell. He is a prime example of a British establishment protecting their own. In their eyes, he is a hero. He is no hero. He is a serial killer and a child killer, a multiple murderer. The British government say no soldiers acted outside the law. They say that most of the British Army killings were lawful. All the evidence in these cases says otherwise, and every inquest result that families get proves it. These killings cannot be declared lawful without proper investigation, and proper investigation will no doubt prove that we were right. Our people were murdered by the British state. This bill of shame is being introduced to protect the British Army killers like F and to ensure that their crimes will never be uncovered. They have brought this bill because they are scared. They are scared that their soldiers, books and civil servants will be exposed, and that their role as a combatant and as helpless in the war in Ireland will be highlighted around the world. They are trying to deny us justice because they are scared to face justice. Every human being on this planet is born equal, and if the British government's Bill of Shame is implemented, the victims of British Army killers will be treated as less evil than others. This cannot be allowed. We must stop this obnoxious bill by whatever means possible. We must never give up. We must fight on. We will fight on, and will not go away until truth and justice are achieved. Thank you.
I am John Finucane, son of Patrick Finucane and Sinn Féin MP for North Belfast. And today, my thoughts are with each and every single family who lost a loved one during the conflict. Families who lost so much, many of whom have campaigned for decades for truth and justice in memory of their loved one. Families who now see the British government pulling down the shutters on their campaigns with their legacy bill, better known, rightfully known as the Bill of Shame. Today, I stand in solidarity with you. This year is the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, when people took to the streets in peaceful protest against internment and for basic civil and human rights. Instead, the British government of the day made a calculated political decision to turn the guns of the parachute regiment on civilian protesters when they used lethal force against a civilian population who were standing up against injustice and for a future defined by equality for all. Of course, there were alternatives. The British government could have delivered basic civil liberties and human rights, but they chose military force and oppression to suppress basic demands for equality and justice, much in the same way the parachute regiment did 6 months earlier in Ballymurphy over 3 days of absolute carnage. And then again in July 1972 in Spring Hill and Westrock, the British Army murdered 5 unarmed people, including 3 children, as we heard earlier. And then in the New Lodge in North Belfast, over the 3rd and 4th of February 1973, the British Army and its undercover murder gang, the Military Reconnaissance Force, murdered 6 unarmed men. Multiple incidents of British state murder, but the pattern of impunity was the same. We are not giving up. We are not going away. All the British government can do is delay the truth. They can no longer deny responsibility, and they can no longer deny rights. And they will ultimately not be successful. We should, and I know we will, take hope that the truth will out.
This bill is cruel, it's illegal, it's immoral, and it's unacceptable. Every family has a right to an independent investigation into the death of their loved ones. It's a basic human right, which is universally recognised. So my plea to everyone who is here today, or who is with us in spirit, is to continue to stand and march with us until truth and justice is achieved for all families. I have a message for the British government and their new Prime Minister. From the people you choose not to see, we are not invisible. You are not invincible. You must spin the legacy Bill of Shame. Thank you.